I thought I'd just do a quick tutorial on how to set up your options. The one thing about options is that if once you set them in game, you need to at least log out to the character screen to save them. So after you do your options, make sure you do that. You go to the character screen, then log back in. So the first settings are your video and your audio settings, and honestly, you can set these ahead of time because they will apply count wide to all of your characters. Uh, I won't really say too much about these because I think these are kind of individual preference. For me, I like borderless window mode. I do the 1920 by 1080. I kind of leave the max FPS and all that stuff on the default settings. I use DirectX 11, although I know sometimes people use DirectX 9, which I think all of that's fine. For the heavy duty graphic settings, the advanced ones, the rule of thumb is really you want your draw distance to always be max so you can see the characters and the terrain as quickly as possible. And for all the quality ones, you want to set those lower just so you're not getting a lot of particle effects and stuff like that, especially during large scale PvP. On the sound settings, and you can go ahead and see everything I have set here. I kind of scroll through these pretty slow so everybody can kind of see exactly what I have set. If you have a really nice graphics card, set them as high as you want and then experiment with it later. So onto the sound settings. So for the sound settings, I think the Archeage is really loud. So I basically turn the overall volume down to 5. I put the audio quality on as high as settings, and I do the background music down really low and leave the effects on like a 7. So then for the game mode settings, the main thing is I like to show the mana and the health on the bar, and then I will put down to just show the combat log for just myself, and yeah, that's basically it for this one. For this one, you want to check skill deployment. That means wherever your mouse is, and you cast a spell, it'll go to where that mouse location is. I uncheck the double tap skills because I will accidentally do those sometimes, especially like the double tap space. So I uncheck those and I set those to bind keys. And then, of course, uh, I leave the rest pretty much to the default, and then I turn off the chat filter, I think is basically all they do on this one. And then I turn on all the bars. You pretty much need those for all of those. For the main movement keys, I rebind my auto run and my sheath and whatever. Uh, for the for the action ones, I basically rebind those. I don't like the FG whatever. I rebind these to control whatever. I don't really like the FGH whatever for my glider buttons, so I just always change these to something else. Um, and the camera ones I don't touch at all. For the UI ones, I like to use the C for something else, so I change the paper doll to a U, and then I like using the bag as B, so I change it to that. Then I go through and I update all my hotkeys. I like everything to be on the left-hand side. I think that's really the key thing. And my mouse buttons. So mouse buttons and left-hand side of my keyboard. I mean, everybody has their own kind of special makeup of how they want those, but that's generally how I lay mine out. And sometimes I definitely add more later in the game, but early in the game, this is just basically my base layout to kind of cover me through at least 255. Um, there's one last thing that I turn off at the end, and that's the sign keys. I don't like having hotkeys for those, so I turn those off too. And that's it. So that's basically everything I do. And once you have that done, you now want to log yourself out of the game and go to the character select. You don't want to go all the way out. You just want to go to the character select. That way it won't take you off of the server and then just come right back in. So if you do happen to crash while you're playing, you won't lose all your settings. And before I do that log out, I adjust my I like moving my icons to specific spots. And you could do that later. These seem to stay, if you crash or not, they always seem to retain their spot. So that one you don't really need to do before you do your logout. And that's it.